This week, I want to talk about a word that we're all familiar with, and we've probably all got some kind of idea as to what the scriptures are talking about when they say truth, but it may not be the case. So we're going to ask the question that Pilate asked Yeshua, what is truth? Yeshua said, I've come into the world that I should bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth hears my voice. And Pilate says, what is truth? And it's an important question. Obviously, the book of John, the extant copies that we have, are written in Greek. So if we look at the Greek word, it's not really going to tell us what truth is from the perspective of what the scriptures have taught up until this point, which was all written in Hebrew, and the word that is used in Hebrew is different. Now, the English word that we have, truth, it's got a certain meaning, and we translate that from the Hebrew or from the Greek. The Greek word also has a certain meaning, but that's translated from the Hebrew. And I want to give you an example of the Hebrew. What I mean when I say that the Greek doesn't adequately translate the Hebrew. In the book of Acts, Peter is talking on the day of Pentecost, or Shavuot. He says, for David says concerning him, I saw Yehovah before me continually, because he is at my right hand, in order that I should not be shaken. For this reason my heart rejoiced, and my tongue was glad, and now my flesh shall also rest in expectation. Because you shall not leave my soul in, the Greek says Hades. But of course Peter is quoting David here, David. So he's quoting from the Hebrew manuscripts. So if we go back to the passage that he's quoting from there, we see it in Psalm 16:10. You do not leave my soul in, and the Hebrew word is Sheol. Sheol is a completely different concept to Hades. Hades is kind of the closest that you can get to the Hebrew Sheol. Sheol is the underworld, and it's spoken of in a very particular way in the Hebrew manuscripts. The Greek concept of Hades is somewhat similar, but actually not the same. If we look on Wikipedia, what the Greeks believed about Hades, they believed it was where all mortals go when they die. So that aspect of it is correct. However, their myths talk about these people and their interactions with it. It says, later Greek philosophy introduced the idea that all mortals are judged after death and are either rewarded or cursed. There were several sections of the realm of Hades, and that's somewhat true. There's two sides of Sheol. Talks about Tartarus here, which is another word that Peter uses, again approximating a concept. When one is talking in Greek, one can only refer to Hebrew concepts using the closest word, the word that kind of almost sums it up. We might think of Sheol, and we do see in the translations that we have, hell put over the word Sheol. It's kind of the closest English approximation. Doesn't really help us when we're trying to discern from the scriptures what happens to one once one dies. For that, we need to go back and understand the concept of Sheol. If it's not something that you're familiar with, I would recommend this video. And in fact, the subsequent videos, Life After Death Part 2 and Life After Death Part 3, to fully understand. But the English word hell, it doesn't really encapsulate what's going on in Sheol. In fact, it would lead you astray into thinking of a place of torture and all sorts of other things that are inaccurate. But if we can just take from this that English words approximate Hebrew words, Greek words also approximate the Hebrew concepts, we're just getting as close as we can. So when we have it recorded, Pilate said, "What is truth?" in Greek. In Hebrew, he would have said, "What is Emet?" Emet is the Hebrew word. So if we look at the word Emet, okay, we can see there the way that they understand it to be used: firmness, faithfulness, or truth. Look at the words that are associated here: sureness, reliability, stability, continuance, faithfulness. Okay, so the word emet doesn't just mean the opposite of that which is false. That's what it means in English. The English word truth means the opposite of that which is false. However, in Hebrew, it's to do with that which is sure, that which is reliable, that which is consistent. And if we look at Gesenius, okay, he says here, firmness, stability, perpetuity. Okay, that's the first thing that he says. The word emet means faithfulness, fidelity, probity, uprightness, integrity. Okay, so if we think the word shalom, meaning wholeness and completeness, and we think of the word for faith, emunah, okay, meaning something that is steadfast and reliable, we get a better idea of what is being spoken of by truth. He says here truth as opposed to falsehood, but it's the fourth thing that he mentions, and it's all that meaning comes from the fact that it is that which is sure, that which is reliable, that which is steadfast. That begets the idea that it is what is true, as we would understand the word true, as opposed to that which is false, which doesn't possess any of those characteristics. If we look at the Blue Letter Bible entry, we see here it has a root word. And this is really interesting because its root word is a man. And a man is the root word of emunah. Okay, to support. Okay, again, it's talking about that which is steadfast. It talks about being faithful to confirm or be faithful to uphold. So the concept of truth is that which is faithful, that upon which one can rely, not entirely that which is opposed to what is false. So if we can understand that the word emet is used instead, gives us a much better idea of what Yehovah, what his word is to us. His word is true, and we can rely upon his word. It's that upon which we can put our weight. We can lean on his word and know that it is firm, that it is stable, that it will support us. When you stray outside of his word, that's when you get into things that are not to be relied upon. Even though you might see something and you might think, oh, I want that thing, I'll go after it. It's not something which will bear your weight when you try to lean upon it. It's something that has no substance. In Isaiah 39, 6-8, it says, see, the days are coming when all that is in your house and what your fathers have stored up until this day shall be taken to Babel. Not a matter shall be left, declares Yehovah. And they shall take some of your sons who are born to you, whom you bring forth, and they shall be made eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon. And Hezekiah that is, said to Yeshayahu, Isaiah, the word of Yehovah which you have spoken is good. And he said, because there is peace, actually because there is shalom and emet in my days. So we read peace and truth and we get an idea of what is being spoken of. But actually he's saying that things are in a state of shalom, that there is emet, that which can be relied upon, things that are kind of stable in his day. Things are in a state of shalom, as we've looked at. And this idea of the truth as something which is permanent, something which can be relied upon, something which is enduring, we see conceptually spoken of elsewhere in the scriptures. Once we understand what emet is, then we can understand other scriptures as speaking of the same concepts. So in 1 Peter, it says, now that you have cleansed your souls in obeying the truth through the Spirit to unfeigned brotherly love, love one another fervently with a clean heart, that is kindness or chesed and emet. Having been born again, not of corruptible seed, but incorruptible, through the living word of Elohim, which remains forever. Again, permanence. Because all flesh is as grass, and all the esteem of man as the flower of the grass. The grass withers, and its flower falls away. But the word of Elohim remains forever, and this is the word announced as good news to you, or announced as the gospel to you. So, understanding that obeying the emet, different from what we would think of as obeying the truth. This is true, it is not false. We can see a greater depth of what Peter is talking about here. If you obey what is emet, then you are laying a foundation which is permanent, which is steadfast, which you can rely on. And if that is your foundation, then it will endure, and you will gain what is called eternal life. But it says here, you were born again, or reborn is actually the word anageneo, reborn, not of corruptible seed, that which is impermanent, that which it doesn't have steadfastness, it doesn't have any degree of permanence, but of incorruptible, of the word of Elohim, and that remains forever. Okay, so we want to found our lives on the word of Elohim, because that is sure, that will endure well past anything that we might experience which is transient, which is fading away. Matthew 7:24-27, again understanding what Emet is, that the word of Elohim is Emet, we can understand what Yeshua is saying in more detail. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and does them shall be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain came down, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, and it did not fall, for it was founded on the rock. Everyone who hears these words of mine, that which is Emet, and does not do them, shall be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. It's not Emet, it's not reliable, it's not going to remain forever, it doesn't have any degree of permanence. The rain came down, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and they beat on that house, and it fell, and great was its fall. So we have a choice of whether or not we're going to found our lives on Emet, or whether we're going to found our lives on something that we might see and think, oh, that's good, I'll found my life on that. That seems to be something worthwhile. And then when difficulty comes, there is no stability there. There's nothing permanent on which to get a footing, because it's not Emet, it's not true in English, but Emet is a better word to understand what is being said. Psalm 11 verse 5 says, Yehovah tries the righteous. That's that word that we looked at, which means to do something by feel. So if we get the idea of Yehovah trying the righteous by feel, the image that I get in my head is, if you want to test the ground before you walk on it, you want to see whether or not it is firm, whether or not it is, in Hebrew, Emet, whether it's something that you can step upon, like the house which is founded upon the rock, the house that is founded upon what is permanent, that which remains forever. And we see this word used when Joseph is speaking to his brothers, whether or not they are true men. We see the word b'chan used in the word Emet. Send one of you and let him bring your brother while you were kept in prison. So let your words be proven, tested by feel, to see whether there is any truth in you, or else by the life of Pharaoh you are spies. So we can kind of understand this as saying, we're going to see, let your words be tested by feel, to see whether or not there is any stability, any Emet in them, whether they can be relied upon. This is obviously talking about the word of man. The word of Elohim, of course, has been tested, has been tried, and it is something upon which you can step with confidence. So if you have faith, if you have belief, then you trust in that which is able to support you, the strong foundation. If you don't have faith or belief, you're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to step upon something, relying upon it to be firm. You're not going to trust that thing. We bechan Yehovah by walking out his word. As we walk it out, we experience directly by feel that it is reliable, that it is something that can be trusted to support our weight. Even when our senses tell us that doing the word would be foolish, by doing it, we see that it is reliable. We see that we can trust it. We see that it is Emet. It is faithful. It is trustworthy. It is steadfast. In Isaiah 36 verse 6, this is Rab Shakar, in English, Rav Shekar in Hebrew, or rather Rav Shakeh in Hebrew. He says, "Look, you are trusting in the staff of this broken reed, Egypt, on which if a man leans, it shall go into his hand and pierce it." So this is Rav Shakeh saying, look, you can't rely upon Pharaoh. He is something that if you lean upon him, it will do you damage. And that is how things are, that we might think, well, if I just stray from the word of Elohim, I've got this that I can depend on, or that I can depend on. Whereas actually those things are unstable. They have no permanence. You can think that you're able to trust in them, but in the end, they will do you harm. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of Elohim, who gives to all generously and without reproach, and it shall be given to him. But he should ask in faith or belief, not doubting. For he who doubts is like a wave of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. For that man should not think that he shall receive whatever from the master. For he is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. Okay, so when you ask for something, you ask in faith. And that faith is that is something which can be trusted, something which can be stepped upon and relied upon. So when you ask, you don't doubt, because if you doubt, you don't trust, and it is thinking that the word is not met. Okay, so when we ask for something, we step out onto the Emet, onto that which is steadfast, and we trust that it's going to be there to support us. That is kind of the essence of faith. That's the beauty of his word being Emet. He gives us his Emet as a gift, if you like, for us to be able to know that we can rely upon it. It's quite a thing to have something that you know that you can rely upon in the world, that you can put your weight upon it and it will be Emet, it will be steadfast, it will be solid, it will be reliable, because there is nothing else in the world which has that reliability as the word does. The word used there, the Greek word, is akastatos, and we see it means unstable, inconstant, or restless. Okay, and all of those things are the opposite of what Emet is. So we've got all of these things in Scripture. We've got those things which are reliable, and words which talk of things having trustworthiness and faithfulness. And then we've got the opposite of that. The wicked are unstable. They have no stability, nothing upon which they can trust. We see another word for unstable used by Peter. These, like natural unreasoning beasts, have been born to be caught and destroyed. Blaspheme that which they do not know, shall be destroyed in their destruction. Being about to receive the wages of unrighteousness, deeming indulgence in the day of pleasure, spots and blemishes, reveling in their own deceptions, those things which are unstable, those things which are not emet, while they feast with you, having eyes filled with an adulterous and unable to cease from sin, enticing unstable souls. Having left the right way, they went astray. So here we see what the opposite of emet is. That which is false, that which has nothing upon which you can rely, that which will not support your weight. And they entice the unstable, those who are already a bit wobbly. The truth, or the emet, being the opposite of this. The Greek word which is used here, asteriktos. Again, you see here, the words that are used are the opposite of the words that are used for emet, that which is unstable, that which is unsteadfast. Isaiah 19:13-14 says, the princes of Zoan have become fools, the princes of Nophah deceived. They, the cornerstone of her tribes, have led Egypt astray. Jehovah has mixed a perverse spirit in her midst, and they have led Egypt astray in all her work, as a drunkard strays in his vomit. So this is the opposite of emet, the opposite of what is true, being deceived. And we see those who are deceived, those who believe the lie, are unstable. They have no stability. And words like drunkard are used of them. We know that the idiom of drinking wine and becoming unstable speaks of false doctrine, that which is not emet. And if you imbibe the false doctrine, then you have nothing stable upon which to stand. False doctrine might sound good. It might make you think, oh, actually everything's going to be okay. But there is nothing of substance there. There's nothing of emet, nothing of truth. Psalm 107:26-27 says, they go up to the heavens, they go down to the depths, their soul is melted because of evil. That could be literal, talking of the destruction of the soul, or it could be figurative. But it says because of evil, which is ra. Ra is not what we conventionally think of as evil. It's more like that which doesn't fulfill the purpose for which it was made. They reel to and fro and stagger like a drunkard, and all their wisdom is swallowed up. So we've got what Yehovah gives to us as Emet, that which is good, and that is stable, has stability, it is steadfast. And then we've got the opposite of that. We've got that which is Ra, that which is not doing what it was purposed to do initially. And people who partake in those things which are Ra reel to and fro. They've got no stability. There's nothing for them to get a hold upon, to become anchored upon. They're just kind of those who are greedy, those who are lustful, who kind of want things for themselves and kind of try to gather things to themselves, but don't realize that actually they need to have a solid footing to be able to do anything. The world was not created to facilitate evil. The world was made in such a way as to interact with it effectively. You have to be doing what is Emet, what is true. You have to be working in harmony, if you like, with everything that Yehovah has created, to be interacting with it in the way that he designed it to be interacted with. If you think that you're going to get something for yourself, or you're going to make things better for yourself by straying away from that, then you haven't understood the very fundamental nature of reality itself. It was all created by Yehovah. So trying to stray from Yehovah's ways just makes no sense. If you want to be successful, if you want to have your efforts bear fruit, if you like, then it must be founded upon what is Emet. You might be able to gather a load of things around yourself and feel comfortable in your sin, and Yehovah will allow you to be deceived. But if you want those things to have permanence, if you want them to be enduring, then you have to build them upon the foundation, which is Messiah, who is the Word made flesh. You have to build them upon the Word. You have to, if you make some grand edifice, you make an edifice upon sand, then it will ultimately crumble. But if you want to build something which is enduring, which is long-lasting, then it has to be built upon the word of Messiah. If you want it to have any ultimate value, you have to start by building upon the word. In Galatians 5, we see the works of the flesh mentioned as opposed to those of the Spirit, which is to walk in accordance with that which is Emet. The works of the flesh are well known, which are these: adultery, whoring, uncleanness, indecency, idolatry, sorcery, hatred, quarrels, jealousies, fits of rage, selfish ambitions, dissensions, factions, envy, murder, drunkenness, wild parties, and the like, of which I forewarn you, even as I also said before, that those who practice such as these shall not inherit the kingdom of Elohim. All of those things are things in which there is no emet. There is no permanence, reliability, steadfastness in those things. They are the works of the flesh. They're the transient things that the flesh might desire in the moment. but there is no Emet, there's nothing solid to stand on. So Paul says, look, those who go after those things will not inherit the kingdom, because the kingdom is made of those people, the good in the kingdom, made of those people who walk upon what is solid. Yehovah doesn't want people who are walking after things which are transient. He wants people who see the value in what is in his word, that see the value in the truth, the value in what is reliable, that the value of what is dependable, and believe that it is reliable and dependable. They're the people whom he wants to make up his kingdom. All of these things, like when Paul gives the list, the works of the flesh are these. It's not like a comprehensive list. That's it. These are the only works of the flesh. You see, it says here at the bottom, and the like. Okay, so it's things that are of that sort. And all of them, as I say, are things which are not Emet. They are not reliable. Again, you can see those things out there and you can try to greedily, to lustfully go after those things and gather them to yourself, but it just shows that you are foolish and you don't understand what is in the word of Elohim. You don't understand that by doing such things you can never possibly profit yourself. They're like little illusions, little traps for those who are fools to go after, thinking that they are ends in and of themselves. Proverbs 3:5-6 says, "Trust in Yehovah with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding." So trusting in Yehovah is juxtaposed there with leaning on your own understanding. So you could say, lean on Yehovah with all your heart, trust not in your own understanding. It would be saying exactly the same thing. So to trust in Yehovah is to lean on him. Know him in all your ways, and he makes all your paths straight. Okay, he will give you stable, firm ground to walk on. And by having faith in his word, then you make it so that you are standing on firm ground. He thereby makes all your paths straight. He makes it so that when you go out and you venture to try to do things, you're standing on something that is firm. Again, you can amass to yourself all kinds of things, but if that edifice is built upon sand, ultimately it will not profit you at all. If you lean on something else, whatever else it is, you're leaning on something that doesn't have any stability, something that is false. Okay, we know that the devil is described as the father of lies, the father of that which is not steadfast, reliable, enduring. Psalm 119 verse 142 says, "Your righteousness is righteousness forever, and your law," or your Torah, "is truth." The Hebrew word, of course, is Torah. It's translated as law. I've mentioned before, but a way to explain that I like is, I heard someone, I can't remember who it was, say, translating Torah as law is like translating father as disciplinarian. Torah is actually him leading you in the way. It's his teaching and direction, his teaching and instruction in your life. But it's described here as Emet. The teachings of mainstream Christianity would have you believe that the law has been done away with. But it's an obvious nonsense when you understand the things that we've been looking at, that it brings shalom, peace, brings wholeness, well-being to your life. It is emet, it is steadfast, it's reliable. You can't do away with it because it is kind of fundamental to reality. That bad doctrine, that wine, will make you unstable. You can't rely upon that sort of doctrine. His Torah is permanent. It doesn't go away. Your righteousness is righteousness forever. It's enduring. Your Torah is a part of that. His Torah describes what we can do before him to be righteous. It describes what he would do, what his name is, what his character is. It allows us to walk in a way which is pleasing before him. Not only pleasing before him, but in a way which is true, which is founded, or it is a foundation upon which we can make our steps. It is, it's permanent, it's stable, it's the ground upon which we can walk. Again, other doctrine will make you reel to and fro like a drunkard. No stability in that whatsoever. In Psalm 85, it says, "Show us your chesed, O Yehovah, and give us your deliverance. Let me hear what El Yehovah speaks, for he speaks shalom to his people and to his chesed, and let them not turn again to folly." And we have a better understanding of exactly what is being said here now. Truly his deliverance is near to those who fear him, for esteem to dwell in our land. Kindness, chesed, and emet shall meet. Righteousness and shalom shall kiss. That word for kiss is nesak. It means to come together in a way in which you are organized in an arranged fashion. It kind of means to fasten together. So all of these concepts are linked. Chesed, emet, righteousness, and shalom. All of these concepts feed into each other and are connected to each other. Emet sprouts from the earth, forth from the earth, and righteousness looks down from heaven. Indeed, Yehovah gives what is good, and our land yields its increase. So all of these things are good, okay? Tov in the Hebrew, as opposed to that which is ra, that which is evil. So by pursuing after all of those things, righteousness, shalom, chesed, emet, then we are going after what Yehovah has created the world to be, and we're in line with it. We're in sync with the way that reality is. If we go after those things which are ra, then we have no stability, and we're going after things in a way that the world isn't designed to work, and that will have negative results. I'll be doing teaching at some point in the future called Good versus Evil, where I'll look at the things that we have looked at over the past weeks and see what the word is really describing in this kind of battle between good and evil, as one might put it in English. But you have to decide, what is it that you trust in? Do you believe the lie? Do you believe the falsehood? Or do you believe the Emet, the truth? Because what you rely upon is where you're going to put your weight. When everyone's going to think, oh, I rely upon the truth. But whether or not you do is seen in the tests of your faith. Do you put your weight on the word, or do you put your weight on your own understanding? Do you lean on your own understanding? Romans 3:31 is an interesting one for us to consider in light of what we have learnt recently. Do we then nullify the Torah through faith or belief? Let it not be. On the contrary, we establish the law or the Torah. So, truly understanding what faith is, truly understanding what the Torah is, your Torah is truth, is Emet, then we can see the way that they work together. By our faith, we establish, we make firm the Torah. We make firm the law. Our faith in it is what is needed. It is true and it can be relied upon, but our reliance upon it is what establishes it in our lives, and that's what we should be doing. Faith doesn't nullify the law. Faith establishes that which is true in the world. Yehovah willing, I'll see you next week.